The council chamber stretched across 300 meters of polished stone, filled with representatives from 47 different species. Telmora stood at the central podium, her forearms trembling as she held the datapad. She had reviewed the survey results 17 times, hoping she had made an error. She had not. "Honored members," she began, her translator converting her words into the standard galactic language. "The Vorkan survey ship has returned from the Sol system. What they found requires immediate action." Several council members were not paying attention. The Zaltharian representative was reading messages on his personal device. The Krell War Master appeared to be sleeping. This was typical for reports about primitive species in distant systems. Telmora pressed on. The third planet, designated Earth, contains a spacefaring civilization. They call themselves humans. They have achieved atomic power, computer technology, and basic spaceflight. However, they do not possess faster-than-light travel. Then why are we discussing them? The Zaltharian finally looked up, annoyed. Pre-FTL species are observed and catalogued. Nothing more. This is standard protocol. This species is different. Telmora's voice carried an edge of desperation. They have technology that should not exist at their development stage. They have created weapons capable of destroying their entire planet. Not theoretical weapons, actual devices they have built and tested. Now she had some attention. A few representatives leaned forward. "Impossible," said the Krell War Master, now awake. "Species do not develop planet-killing weapons before they achieve interstellar travel. They lack the resources and the motivation. Humans are motivated by conflict with each other," Telmora explained. She activated the holographic display. Images of Earth appeared, showing continents divided by lines. They have over 200 separate nations. These nations have fought approximately 15,000 wars in their recorded history. Then they will destroy themselves, the Zaltharian said dismissively. "Violent species always do. We will return in a century and find ruins or a peaceful survivor population ready for integration." Telmora had expected this response. She changed the display to show mushroom clouds rising over cities. These images are from 79 years ago. Humans used atomic weapons against each other. 2 cities were completely destroyed. The death count exceeded 200,000 individuals. The chamber fell silent. Several representatives made gestures of horror in their respective cultural traditions. "But here is what troubles me most," Telmora continued. "After using these weapons, after seeing the devastation they caused, humans did not stop. They built more. Bigger ones. They created weapons that could end all life on their planet 100 times over. And yet they still exist. Their population has grown. Their cities have been rebuilt. They continue to advance." The Vorkan ambassador stood to support Telmora's presentation. His species were known for their careful nature, their tendency to worry about potential threats. This reputation often worked against them. "We monitored their radio transmissions," he said. "Humans broadcast entertainment showing their own extinction. They create stories about destroying themselves with nuclear war, with artificial plagues, with runaway technology. They imagine their doom in extraordinary detail and they appear to enjoy it. That proves they are insane," the Zaltharian said. "Insane species fail." "They also broadcast their exact location to the stars," the Vorkan continued. "They sent messages containing mathematical formulas, images of their biology, and maps showing precisely where their planet is located. They invited contact with unknown species that could be hostile. What rational civilization does this?" "A desperate one," suggested a council member from the peaceful Sisterhood of Aligned Worlds. "Perhaps they seek guidance. We should send a diplomatic mission." Telmora shook her head. "I reviewed their history carefully. Humans are not desperate. They are curious and aggressive in equal measure. Let me share more data." She pulled up military statistics. At any given moment, humans are fighting an average of 30 active armed conflicts. Yet their wars have become less deadly over time. They have created rules for warfare. They have treaties limiting weapons, protecting civilians, and defining war crimes. "Rules for war?" The Krell War Master laughed. "War has one rule: destroy the enemy." "Humans disagree," Telmora said. "They fight each other constantly, but they restrain themselves. They could use their planet-killing weapons in any conflict. They choose not to. This suggests a species with the capacity for both extreme violence and extreme self-control." She brought up more images, these showing human space activities. "They have placed satellites around their planet. They have established a permanent space station. They have landed on their moon 6 times, leaving equipment and flags to mark their achievement. They have sent robotic probes to every planet in their system and beyond. One probe has left their solar system entirely, carrying a message for anyone who might find it. Without FTL, that probe will drift for thousands of years before reaching anything, the Zaltharian noted. Exactly, Telemora said. Humans plan for timescales beyond their individual lifespans. They think in terms of species survival, not personal survival. This is sophisticated for a pre-FTL civilization. A junior analyst named Krevtar spoke from the back of the chamber. He was young and rarely addressed the council directly. Archivist Telmora, I have been reviewing the linguistic data from Earth. I found something disturbing. Humans currently speak 6,809 distinct languages. Several council members gasped. Most spacefaring species had 1 or 2 languages, perhaps a few ancient ceremonial ones. Yet they are forming a unified global culture, Krevtar continued. They have created translation systems. They share scientific knowledge across language barriers. They have built an information network connecting their entire planet. Species this divided should not be capable of cooperation, but humans cooperate anyway, even while fighting. Telemora nodded gratefully at the support. This is my concern. We are observing a species that should not exist according to our models. They should have destroyed themselves. They should be isolated in tribes speaking different languages. They should not have atomic weapons, space stations, and global communication networks all at once. Yet they do. What do you recommend? Asked the council leader, an ancient being whose species had been traveling the stars for 10,000 years. Quarantine, Telmora said firmly. Establish monitoring stations outside their system. Prevent any contact until we understand them better. Send anthropology teams to study their transmissions. Most importantly, prepare defensive measures. If humans achieve FTL technology, they will spread quickly. You propose we treat them as a threat? The Zaltharian stood offended. They are confined to one system. They have no FTL capability. They fight among themselves. By the time they develop interstellar travel, if they ever do, it will be centuries from now. This is fear-mongering. I propose we take reasonable precautions, Telemora insisted. The council leader called for a vote. The motion to establish special protocols for Earth failed by a wide margin. Most members agreed with the Zaltharian assessment. Violent pre-FTL species were self-limiting problems. The survey data will be filed in the archives, the council leader announced. Standard monitoring protocols will apply. Automated observation posts will report any significant developments. This council considers the matter closed. Telmora returned to her station defeated. She marked the Earth file with the highest priority flag available to her. She added a note that would be attached to any future reports. Warning. This species does not follow expected development patterns. Exercise extreme caution. Over the following decades, the automated post sent regular updates. Humans launched primitive generation ships toward nearby stars. Humans developed increasingly sophisticated artificial intelligence. Humans created biological weapons that could target specific genetic markers. Each report was filed, categorized, and largely ignored. 50 years after Telmora's presentation, the monitoring post sent an urgent alert. A fleet of ships had entered the Sol system. The Zaltharian hegemony had decided Earth's resources were too valuable to leave unexploited. They were initiating standard colonization procedures. Telmora saw the alert and felt her heart sink. She sent one final message to the Zaltharian fleet commander, though she knew it would be ignored. Turn back. You do not understand what you are about to encounter. The message was logged and deleted without being read. The Zaltharian fleet continued toward Earth, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They had conquered 30 pre-FTL civilizations using identical tactics. They saw no reason why number 31 would be different. They were about to learn why they should have listened. Commander Vexral stood on the bridge of the Hegemony flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the view screen. The planet looked beautiful from space, covered in blue oceans and white clouds. It reminded him of a dozen other worlds his fleet had claimed for the Zaltharian hegemony. This would be simple work. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. Weapon systems charged. Boarding parties standing by. Excellent, Vexral said. He had performed this duty 30 times before. The procedure never changed. Arrive with overwhelming force. Demonstrate superior technology, accept surrender, establish control. Most species submitted within hours once they understood resistance was futile. "Begin the broadcast," he ordered. The communications officer activated the standard message, translated into the dominant human languages. "People of Earth, you have been selected for integration into the Zaltharian hegemony. You will provide resources and labor. In exchange, you will receive protection and access to galactic technology. You have one rotation of your planet to signal your complete surrender. Resistance will result in the destruction of your major population centers. This is your only warning." To demonstrate their power, Vexrel ordered the weapons officer to disable Earth's satellite network. Energy beams lanced out from the Zaltharian ships, precisely targeting the primitive satellites orbiting the planet. Within minutes, Earth's global communications and navigation systems went dark. "Now we wait," Vexrel said, settling into his command chair. "They will panic, argue among themselves, and ultimately accept reality. They always do." He was wrong about the panic part. Deep beneath a mountain in North America, military commanders from every major nation gathered in an emergency meeting. The United States President stood at the head of a conference table surrounded by screens showing leaders from China, Russia, the European Union, India, Japan, and 30 other countries. "We have 24 hours, the president said. "Recommendations?" "We ask for more time," suggested the French president. "We negotiate. Surely we can reach a peaceful arrangement." "They disabled our satellites as a casual demonstration," the Russian premier said. "This is not a negotiation. This is a threat." "Then we fight," said the Indian prime minister. "What choice do we have? Fighting 50 alien warships with superior technology?" The Chinese president shook his head. "We will lose. Then we lose fighting," the American president said quietly. "I will not be the generation that surrenders humanity's freedom without firing a single shot. My children will not grow up as slaves." A long silence followed. Then one by one the leaders nodded. "We need 24 hours to prepare," said the British Prime Minister. "We told them we need time to discuss terms. Let us use that time wisely." What happened over the next 24 hours would be studied by xenoanthropologists for generations. Every nation on Earth shared military technology freely. Launch codes for nuclear weapons were distributed to a unified command structure. Retired soldiers returned to service. Defense contractors opened their research labs. Scientists who had spent careers developing weapons that were never supposed to be used suddenly found themselves preparing those weapons for actual deployment. Humanity had spent 70 years preparing for nuclear war against each other. Now they redirected all that preparation toward a new enemy. The International Space Station, a symbol of peaceful cooperation, was hastily modified into a weapons platform. Satellites that had been destroyed were actually decoys. The real military satellites remained hidden and operational. Most importantly, humanity did something the Zaltharians had never encountered. They asked every person to fight. Not just soldiers, but programmers, engineers, hackers, and scientists. Anyone with skills became part of the war effort. When the 24 hours expired, Vexrel returned to Earth's communication frequencies, expecting to receive surrender terms. Instead, a simple message appeared on his screen. "No." "What do you mean, no?" Vexrel demanded, though he was talking to an empty channel. "Clarify your response immediately." The reply came from a woman who identified herself as Admiral Sarah Chen, representing the United Earth Defense Force. Vexrel had never heard of Earth having a unified military before. They must have created it in the last day. "Your terms are rejected," Admiral Chen said calmly. "Leave our system immediately or face retaliation." Vexrel laughed. His crew joined him. A pre-FTL species threatening them? This was unprecedented arrogance. "You have no weapons that can harm us," Vexrel said. "I will demonstrate this by destroying one of your cities. Perhaps then you will understand reality." "You can try," Admiral Chen replied. Vexrel ordered his weapons officer to target a coastal city. Before the order could be executed, alarms shrieked across every ship in the fleet. The tactical display lit up with hundreds of incoming projectiles. "Impossible," the tactical officer gasped. "They are launching everything. Nuclear missiles, kinetic projectiles, chemical weapons, electromagnetic pulses. I count over 300 separate launches from sites across the planet." "Destroy them," Vexrel snapped. The Zaltharian point defense systems activated, shooting down the incoming weapons. The systems were designed for ship-to-ship combat, not for defending against planetary assault. They were overwhelmed within minutes. Nuclear warheads detonated against ship hulls. Kinetic projectiles moving at orbital velocity punched through armor. Chemical weapons that should not work in space somehow damaged external sensors and weapon arrays. Shields holding, the defensive officer reported, though his voice carried uncertainty. But we are taking damage. These humans are using primitive weapons in ways we did not anticipate. Then the real attack began. Earth's hidden military satellites activated. Weapons that humanity had been quietly developing for decades. Weapons that were supposed to be used against each other, all targeted the alien fleet. Laser arrays designed to shoot down missiles now focused on ship engines. Experimental railguns fired solid projectiles at a percentage of light speed. Cyber warfare specialists found vulnerabilities in Zaltharian computer systems and exploited them ruthlessly. "How are they hacking our systems?" the communications officer shouted. "These networks use quantum encryption. They should not be able to access them at all." But humans had been working on quantum computing for 50 years. They understood the mathematics even if they had not fully implemented the technology, and they were very good at breaking things. 3 Zaltharian ships exploded in the first hour. 5 more were crippled and drifting. The fleet tried to retreat to a safer distance, but Earth's weapons had better range than expected. Humans had built missiles that could chase targets across millions of kilometers. They modified civilian spacecraft into bombs. The tactical officer reported in horror. "I am tracking 24 vessels accelerating toward us. They contain human pilots." "Shoot them down," Vexral ordered. Most of the civilian craft were destroyed, but 3 reached their targets. The pilots did not try to eject or escape. They simply crashed their vessels into Zaltharian ships at maximum velocity, detonating whatever explosives they had packed into their cargo holds. Vexral watched in shock as a human piloting nothing more than a modified transport shuttle rammed straight into a heavy cruiser. The human ship was destroyed instantly, but the explosion crippled the cruiser's engines. The ship began tumbling out of control. "These creatures are insane," someone whispered on the bridge. The battle continued for 6 hours. The Zaltharians had superior technology, better shields and more powerful weapons, but humans fought with desperate creativity. They used tactics that made no sense according to galactic warfare doctrine. They sacrificed valuable assets to destroy minor targets just to spread fear and confusion. They hacked, improvised, and adapted faster than the Zaltharians could respond. When the Zaltharian fleet finally retreated from Earth's orbital space, they had lost 30 ships. 18 others were severely damaged. Vexral's flagship had taken dozens of hits. His crew was traumatized and exhausted. "Send a message to Hegemony Command," Vexral said quietly. "Request immediate reinforcement. Multiple fleets, maybe the entire armada." His communications officer looked at him with wide eyes. "Commander, the cost of such an operation would be enormous. The Hegemony has never deployed the full armada against a single pre-FTL species." "Then make a different recommendation," Vexral said. He pulled up images from the battle, showing human pilots smiling moments before they rammed his ships. "Tell them what we encountered. Let them decide." The communications officer composed the message carefully. Then he added one line at the end, a warning to every Zaltharian ship and station within 100 light-years. "Do not engage Earth. Species is extremely hostile. Conventional colonization procedures ineffective." The message spread through the galactic communication network. Within days, every major civilization knew that the Zaltharian hegemony, a power that had successfully conquered 30 pre-FTL worlds, had been repelled by humans, and humanity was just getting started. In bunkers and laboratories across Earth, scientists examined pieces of destroyed Zaltharian ships, reverse engineering technology that should have taken centuries to understand. Vexral sent one final personal message to the Galactic Council, specifically addressed to Archivist Telmora. "You were right. We should have listened." The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 3 days after the Battle of Earth. Every seat in the chamber was filled. Representatives who normally sent subordinates to routine meetings now attended personally. The mood was tense and fearful. Telmora stood at the central podium once again, but this time everyone was listening. She displayed footage from the Zaltharian ships, showing the battle from multiple angles. Council members watched in silence as human missiles swarmed alien vessels, as modified civilian craft became suicide weapons, as primitive but effective attacks overwhelmed advanced defenses. This was predictable. Telmora said, her voice heavy with exhaustion and vindication. Every warning sign was present in my original report 50 years ago. We chose to ignore them. The Zaltharian ambassador sat in his seat visibly shaken. His species had built their power on military conquest. They had never lost a colonization operation. We underestimated them, he admitted. Our entire strategic doctrine is based on overwhelming technological superiority. Humans negated that advantage through tactics we have never encountered. Show them the psychological profiles, suggested the Vorkan ambassador. Telmora switched the display to show analysis of human behavior during the battle. Humans do not fight like other species. Most civilizations prioritize survival. Individuals retreat when facing certain death. Humans do not. Watch this footage. The screen showed a human pilot whose fighter craft was damaged and losing air. Instead of ejecting or attempting to save himself, the pilot aimed his dying vessel at a Zaltharian ship and accelerated. His final transmission was intercepted and translated, "For Earth. Worth it." This individual knew he was going to die, Telmora explained. He chose to make his death meaningful by inflicting maximum damage on the enemy. This behavior pattern repeated throughout the battle. Humans will gladly trade their lives for tactical advantage. That is not rational, protested a representative from the Commerce Guild. Individual survival is the foundation of all intelligent behavior. Humans prioritize group survival over individual survival, Telmora said. They will sacrifice themselves for abstract concepts like freedom, dignity, and revenge. This makes them extremely dangerous opponents. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. Krevtar, the junior analyst who had discovered the language data decades ago, stepped forward. He was no longer young, having spent his entire career studying Earth from a distance. There is something more concerning than their willingness to die. Humans are adapting. He brought up new data on the holographic display. In the 3 days since the battle, humans have made significant progress reverse engineering Zaltharian technology. They have already figured out the basic principles of your shield generators. They are close to understanding your FTL drive systems. The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Impossible, the Zaltharian ambassador protested. It took my species 200 years to develop FTL technology. Humans cannot possibly understand it in 3 days. They do not fully understand it, Krevtar agreed. But they understand enough. Human scientists are making intuitive leaps that should not be possible. They see patterns we miss. Within 5 to 10 years, humans will have crude but functional FTL drives. The council leader, who had been silent until now, spoke with the weight of 10,000 years of galactic civilization behind his words. Then we face a critical decision. How do we respond to this threat? Immediately, factions emerged. The xenophobe bloc, led by the Krell Empire, advocated for immediate military action. Destroy them now while they are still confined to one system, the Krell War Master declared. Assemble a proper fleet and eliminate the threat completely. That would be genocide, objected the representative from the Sisterhood of Aligned Worlds. We are a civilization of laws. We do not exterminate species because we fear them. We do if they threaten galactic stability, the Krell War Master countered. The Zaltharians sent 50 ships and lost 30. How many ships would we lose? How many lives? Better to end this threat now. The integration faction proposed a different approach. Contact them peacefully, suggested a diplomat from the Federation of Enlightened Worlds. Bring them into galactic society under supervised conditions. Teach them our ways. Guide them toward peaceful coexistence. They just destroyed 30 warships, the Krell War Master said. They are not interested in peace. They defended themselves against an invasion, the diplomat replied. That is not the same as aggression. Perhaps if we approach them with respect rather than threats, we will receive a different response. While the council debated, something extraordinary happened. Human transmissions began appearing on official galactic communication channels. This should have been impossible. Those channels used encryption and protocols that took most species decades to crack. Humans had done it in 3 days. The first message was simple and appeared simultaneously on every council member's personal device. It read, "We know you are discussing us. We would like to participate in that discussion." The council chamber fell silent. No one knew what to say. Finally, Telmora spoke. They have been listening to us. They have been learning our language, our protocols, our systems. For how long? Krevtar pulled up communication records. His face went pale as he reviewed the data. At minimum 50 years, possibly longer. Humans have been intercepting galactic transmissions since they developed radio telescope technology. They have been quietly studying us, learning about us, preparing for eventual contact. Then they knew we existed before the Zaltharian attack? Someone asked. Oh yes, Krevtar confirmed. Look at this. He displayed a human broadcast from 30 years ago, a science fiction entertainment program. The plot involved aliens invading Earth and humanity uniting to defend itself. They have been imagining this scenario for decades. They have been preparing for it culturally and psychologically. When the real invasion came, they were ready. Another human message appeared on the council displays. This one was longer and more detailed. We know where each of your civilizations is located. We have identified 47 different species in this council, and approximately 200 independent civilizations in our local galactic region. We have been studying your politics, your alliances, your conflicts. We understand your power structures better than you might expect. We are coming to the stars. You can be our friends or our enemies. Choose wisely. The bluntness of the message shocked everyone. Most species approached galactic civilization with humility, seeking to learn and adapt. Humans were issuing what amounted to an ultimatum. This is unacceptable, the Krell War Master said. They make demands when they should be begging for mercy. They just defeated the Zaltharian hegemony, Telmora pointed out. From their perspective, they have earned the right to make demands. The Vorkan ambassador stood, his elderly frame shaking. My species warned you 50 years ago. We told you humans were different. We told you they were dangerous. You did not listen. Now I will tell you something else. Humans have a concept my translators struggle to render properly. The closest word is stubbornness or perhaps determination. Once humans decide on a course of action, they do not stop. They do not give up. They will endure any hardship, accept any sacrifice, persist through any obstacle. If we make them our enemies, they will never stop fighting us, never. Even if it takes them 1,000 years, even if they must sacrifice entire generations, they will continue until either they win or they are extinct. Then we must ensure they do not become enemies, the integration faction diplomat said. Too late, the Krell War Master growled. The Zaltharians already made them our enemies. The Zaltharians made themselves enemies, Telmora corrected. Humans have not attacked anyone except in self-defense. They are broadcasting messages, not launching missiles. They are offering friendship or enmity, letting us choose. That suggests a species capable of reason. The council leader called for proposals. 3 options were presented. Option 1, immediate military quarantine. Surround the Sol system with a fleet large enough to destroy any human ship that attempts to leave. Maintain the quarantine indefinitely. Option 2, diplomatic contact under controlled conditions. Send an ambassadorial mission to Earth. Negotiate terms for human integration into galactic society. Require humans to accept a probationary period before gaining full rights. Option 3, do nothing and wait. Allow humans to develop FTL technology on their own. See how they behave once they reach the stars. Respond based on their actions. The vote was close. The quarantine option received support from military powers worried about human aggression. The diplomatic option appealed to peaceful civilizations who believed in integration. The wait-and-see option attracted those who were simply paralyzed by indecision. In the end, the diplomatic option won by a narrow margin. The Council would send an ambassadorial mission to Earth, but the mission would include warships just in case. Telmora felt no relief at the decision. She pulled up the file she had maintained on humans for 50 years. She added a new note. First contact scheduled. Outcome uncertain. Recommend preparing for either alliance or extended conflict. Humans will accept nothing less than equality. She thought about the final line of the human message. Choose wisely. 7 years after the Battle of Earth, the first human FTL ship emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. The vessel looked nothing like standard galactic ships. Where alien vessels were elegant and streamlined, the human ship was angular and brutal. Every surface bristled with weapons. The hull was covered in armor plating that seemed excessive for a supposedly peaceful exploration vessel. Automated monitoring stations detected the arrival immediately and sent alerts throughout the local sector. The humans had done it. They had achieved FTL travel in 7 years, a process that took most species 2 centuries. Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the UESS Endeavour, humanity's first interstellar vessel, and studied the scanner readings. Multiple contacts. Looks like mining operations on the second planet. Broadcasting our greeting now. The greeting message had been carefully crafted by diplomats and linguists. It was friendly and non-threatening, expressing humanity's desire for peaceful contact and mutual cooperation. But Captain Webb kept his weapons ready anyway. Humanity had learned its lesson about trusting unknown civilizations. The mining operation belonged to the Javine Collective, a minor trading species that operated on the fringes of galactic civilization. Their response came quickly, tinged with nervous excitement. "Human vessel, we greet you. We have heard much about your species. Welcome to the stars." Over the following months, more human ships appeared. They did not ask permission to explore. They simply went wherever their curiosity and strategic interests led them. They established a colony on an uninhabited world that three major powers had all been eyeing, but had never formally claimed. When challenged, the human response was polite but firm. The world was unclaimed, therefore it was available for settlement. "But there are informal understandings," protested a Zaltharian diplomat who had been assigned to monitor human expansion. "Species with greater power have priority to valuable worlds." Ambassador Lisa Rodriguez smiled at the Zaltharian. She had been specifically chosen for this role because of her skill in diplomatic confrontation. "We were not informed of these informal understandings. Perhaps because we were never invited to participate in the discussions where such understandings were formed. If you want us to respect your rules, you should include us in making those rules." The Zaltharian had no response to that. Human ships had a distinctive philosophy that disturbed other species. Every vessel, even simple cargo haulers, could function as a warship. They all carried weapons, defensive systems, and combat-trained crews. When asked why a medical transport needed missile batteries, humans replied, "In case we need them." This constant preparedness for violence made other species nervous. But humans pointed out that they had learned this lesson from the Zaltharian invasion. They would never again be caught unprepared. After 2 years of watching humanity expand, establish colonies, and build infrastructure, the Galactic Council formally invited Earth to send a diplomatic mission to the Central Council Station. Ambassador Rodriguez led the human delegation. She arrived with a formal proposal for Earth's integration into galactic civilization. The council chamber was the same one where Telmora had warned about Earth decades ago. Now a human stood at the central podium, presenting humanity's demands. "We want full council membership," Rodriguez stated clearly. "Not probationary status, not limited participation. Full membership with all rights and privileges." The chamber erupted in protest. "Impossible," declared the Krell Warmaster. "New species undergo a probationary period of 500 years. This is tradition." "Your tradition, not ours," Rodriguez replied. "We did not agree to a 500-year wait. We are requesting immediate full membership." "You have been spacefaring for less than a decade," the Zaltharian ambassador protested. "You know nothing of galactic politics, interstellar law, or diplomatic protocols." "Then teach us," Rodriguez said. "But do it as equals, not as students waiting for permission to participate in galactic affairs." "What if we refuse?" the council leader asked. Rodriguez shrugged. "Then we will continue doing what we are doing. We will establish colonies, form alliances, and build our own power structure, with or without council approval." "That would be chaos," someone said. "That would be competition," Rodriguez corrected. "Something many of you seem to have forgotten. You have your comfortable power structures and established rules. We do not fit neatly into those structures. So you can either include us, or you can watch us build alternatives." The council rejected humanity's request. The vote was not even close. Most members felt that humans needed to earn their place in galactic society, not demand it. Rodriguez accepted the decision with grace, thanked the council for their time, and returned to human space. But she did exactly what she had promised. Humanity began forming its own alliances. Humans reached out to minor species on the edges of galactic civilization, the ones the major powers ignored or exploited. They offered fair trade agreements, technology sharing, and mutual defense pacts. Small civilizations that had struggled under the economic dominance of larger powers suddenly found themselves with a powerful new friend. The Commerce Guild noticed first. Human trade was disrupting established markets. Species that had been paying high prices for basic technologies could now get them from humans at reasonable rates. Human merchants did not try to trap their partners in debt. They negotiated as equals. They are buying loyalty, a guild representative complained to the council. They give away technology we carefully control. They are making friends, Telmora observed. Something we failed to do. Within 3 years of being rejected by the council, humanity had formed a coalition of 26 minor civilizations. They called it the Free Trade Alliance. It was not officially opposed to the Galactic Council, but it operated independently outside council authority. The Krell Empire decided this had gone far enough. Humans needed to be reminded of their place in the galactic hierarchy. The Krell identified a human colony on a world that the Empire had historically claimed, though they had never actually settled it. The Krell demanded the humans withdraw. When humanity refused, the Krell sent a battle fleet to enforce their demand. Warmaster Thorax commanded the fleet personally. He had studied the Battle of Earth carefully. He knew human tactics. He had prepared countermeasures. His fleet consisted of 140 ships, the largest force the Krell had assembled in a generation. He would not underestimate humans the way the Zaltharians had. The human colony on Kepler Station had 8,000 inhabitants and 20 defensive ships. By any reasonable calculation, this should have been a massacre. Thorax expected the humans to evacuate once they saw his fleet. Instead, they fought. The battle lasted 14 hours. Human tactics had evolved considerably since the Battle of Earth. They used the planet's gravity well to slingshot munitions at impossible angles. They deployed drone swarms that operated with frightening independence, adapting to Krell defenses in real time. They coordinated their attacks with a precision that suggested hive mind technology, though it was actually just very good communication and training. Most shocking to Thorax was the way human ships fought in perfect coordination with ground-based defenses. Planetary weapons supported the space fleet. The fleet protected the ground installations. It was seamless integration of assets that the Krell, despite centuries of military tradition, had never quite mastered. When the battle ended, the Krell had lost 84 ships. The human colony was damaged but intact. Thorax's flagship was crippled and drifting. He prepared for capture or death. What happened next confused him completely. Human rescue ships arrived to help the damaged Krell vessels. They provided medical care to wounded Krell soldiers. They stabilized crippled ships and prevented them from falling into the planet's atmosphere. They saved Krell lives. When Thorax was transported to a human medical facility, still expecting to be executed or imprisoned, a human doctor treated his injuries with professional efficiency. Admiral Chen, who had defended Earth 7 years ago and now commanded humanity's expanding fleet, visited him personally. "Why?" Thorax demanded. "We attacked you. We tried to destroy your colony." "Why save us?" Chen sat down next to his medical bed. "Because war is what happens when diplomacy fails. Because your soldiers were following orders, not acting from personal malice. Because you were defeated and no longer a threat. And mostly because it is the right thing to do." "This is not logical," Thorax said. "You should kill defeated enemies." "We could," Chen agreed. "But then your empire would have to send another fleet to avenge you. And we would have to kill them too. And then another fleet and another. Where does it end? How many people have to die before someone decides to stop killing?" "When one side is completely destroyed," Thorax said. This was obvious to him. "That is one approach," Chen acknowledged. "Here is another. We beat you in battle. You know we can beat you again if necessary. So now you can make a choice. Keep fighting us until one of our civilizations is extinct, or accept that we are not your enemies unless you make us your enemies." She stood to leave, then paused at the door. "We did not want to fight you, War Master. We wanted to talk to you. We wanted to be your equals, maybe even your friends. But you insisted on violence." The council chamber was silent as Telmora stood at the podium for the 3rd time in her long career. She was ancient now, near the end of her lifespan, but she had insisted on presenting this final analysis personally. The complete historical file on humanity lay open before the council. Not the abbreviated version they had dismissed 50 years ago, but the full documentation with every detail, every warning, every prediction that had come true. "I want you to understand what we missed," Telmora began, her voice still strong despite her age. "Not just the obvious signs of human military capability, but the deeper patterns that make humanity unique in galactic civilization. She displayed a holographic timeline of human history, compressed into visual segments. Most species achieve unity before reaching the stars. They develop a single language, a single government, a single culture. Then they expand outward as a unified whole. Humans did the opposite. They reached the stars while still divided into hundreds of nations, thousands of cultures, and over 6,000 languages. Yet they cooperated when threatened, Krivtar added from his position in the chamber. He had worked alongside Telmora for decades, compiling data on human behavior. The Zaltharian invasion unified them instantly. Not permanently, but sufficiently. Once the threat passed, they returned to their internal disputes. But the memory of unity remained. They proved to themselves that cooperation was possible. Telmora changed the display to show human families. Humans form bonds that transcend logic. They adopt children who are not genetically related to them. They domesticate predator species and call them companions. They create emotional attachments to artificial intelligences, to fictional characters, to abstract ideals. They are possibly the most social species in the galaxy, despite also being remarkably violent. This seems contradictory, observed a council member from a species that valued logical consistency. Contradiction is central to human nature, Telmora explained. They simultaneously love and fear. They create and destroy. They fight wars while dreaming of peace. This is not a flaw in their psychology. It is a feature. It makes them adaptable in ways we are not. She pulled up military records from the Battle of Earth and the Battle of Kepler Station. Notice what happens after each conflict. Humans do not simply defeat enemies. They extend mercy to survivors. They provide medical care. They return prisoners unharmed. But make no mistake, they are equally capable of total destruction. They possess weapons that could sterilize entire planets. They choose restraint, but that choice can be revoked. They have rules for warfare, the Vorkan ambassador said. We found this puzzling at first. Rules that limit their own effectiveness in combat seem counterproductive. But we misunderstood the purpose. These rules are not about limiting effectiveness. They are about maintaining their humanity while engaged in inhuman activities. Telmora nodded. Humans have a concept they call war crimes. Actions that, even in the context of warfare, are considered unacceptable. They will prosecute their own soldiers for violating these rules. This level of self-regulation during conflict is unique. They also have something we have never encountered, Krivtar said. A concept their translators render as spite. It means the willingness to harm oneself in order to harm an enemy. Humans will accept damage, loss, even destruction if it means their opponent suffers equally or more. This makes them extremely dangerous opponents because they cannot be deterred by threat of retaliation alone. But they also forgive, Telmora added quickly. Another unique concept. Within a generation, humans can become friends with former enemies. They fought world wars against each other, using atomic weapons and causing millions of deaths. 70 years later, those same nations were close allies. This capacity for reconciliation is as remarkable as their capacity for violence. She displayed images of human art, music, literature. Humans create constantly. They make art about everything, including their own potential extinction. They write stories about destroying themselves with nuclear war, with artificial intelligence, with environmental collapse, with alien invasion. They imagine every possible doom scenario in extraordinary detail. Then they use these imagined catastrophes to prepare for real ones. This explains why they were ready when the Zaltharians arrived, someone observed. Exactly, Telmora confirmed. They had been culturally rehearsing for alien invasion for over a century. When it actually happened, they had a framework for understanding and responding to the threat. The former Krell War Master Thorax, who now served as a military liaison to the Council, stood to speak. His presence on the Council was itself unprecedented, a result of humanity's influence. I have fought humans. I have studied their tactics. I have lived among them during my recovery. There is something you must understand. Humans are afraid almost constantly. This statement caused surprised murmurs throughout the chamber. They have powerful fear responses, Thorax continued. They worry about things that might never happen. They imagine dangers that do not yet exist. By all logic, this should paralyze them. Instead, it drives them. They prepare for imagined threats. They plan for worst-case scenarios. When those scenarios become real, they are ready. Their fear makes them stronger, not weaker. They also suffer from something they call anxiety, added a medical specialist who had been studying human psychology. A condition where the fear response activates without a clear threat. Many humans experience this chronically. In most species, this would be considered a severe disability. Humans treat it as a normal variation in their population. They have developed medications, therapies, and coping mechanisms. Some of their most accomplished individuals struggle with anxiety throughout their lives. Telmora pulled up genetic data. Humans evolved on a death world. Their planet has extreme weather, aggressive predators, lethal diseases, and periodic mass extinction events. They survived by being adaptable, social, and persistent. These traits are encoded in their biology and their culture. They also have very short lifespans, noted a council member from a species that lived for centuries. Most humans live less than 100 years. They are aware of their mortality from a young age. This creates urgency in their actions. And yet they plan for timescales beyond their individual lives, Kreptar said. They build cathedrals that take generations to complete. They plant trees they will never see fully grown. They create art and knowledge meant to outlast them. They are simultaneously focused on immediate survival and long-term legacy. Telmora changed the display one final time, showing the current state of galactic civilization. Human ships traveled common routes. Human colonies dotted dozens of worlds. Human traders worked in markets across civilized space. In just 7 years, humanity had become indispensable. We can no longer imagine the galaxy without them, Telmora said. They have integrated themselves into our economy, our politics, our society. This was not an accident. This was strategic. Humans understood that the best way to ensure their survival was to make themselves necessary. Ambassador Rodriguez had been listening from the human delegation's position. Now she stood and approached the podium. Telmora yielded the floor to her with a respectful gesture. Everything Archivist Telmora has said is accurate, Rodriguez began. We are contradictory, violent, fearful, and strange. We make no apologies for what we are. But I want to address the question you are all thinking. Are we still dangerous? She paused, making eye contact with representatives around the chamber. Yes, we are more dangerous now than we were 7 years ago. We have better technology, more ships, stronger alliances, and greater understanding of galactic civilization. If we wanted to cause destruction, we could cause tremendous destruction. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably. But here is what you need to understand, Rodriguez continued. We are dangerous to our enemies. If you threaten us, if you try to conquer us, if you attack our friends, then yes, you should be afraid. We will fight with everything we have. We will not stop until we win or we are destroyed. However, and her voice softened, if you are our friends, if you treat us as equals, if you work with us rather than against us, then our dangerous capabilities become your defensive capabilities. We protect our friends as fiercely as we fight our enemies. This is your good fortune, not your problem. She returned to her seat. The chamber remained quiet as the council processed this information. Finally, the council leader spoke. He was the same individual who had dismissed Telmora's warnings 5 decades ago, and he had aged considerably under the weight of that mistake. Archivist Telmora, you were correct in your original assessment. We should have listened. We should have taken your warnings seriously. We should have prepared for humanity's arrival rather than being surprised by it. Yes, Telmora agreed simply. There was no satisfaction in being proven right, only sadness at the unnecessary conflicts that might have been avoided. What is your recommendation now? The council leader asked. Telmora looked at the humans in the chamber, then at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. Never ignore them again. When humans communicate, listen. When they raise concerns, take them seriously. When they offer friendship, accept it genuinely. And most importantly, treat them as equals.